are lovely, dark and deep, and right in the middle of these woods in Bangalore are the founders of a startup that wants to disrupt the world of media and the way it's consumed. I'm going to take you to meet the founders of Amagi on this edition of Bits to Billions. Hello and welcome to Bits to Billions.
Hi.
Great to have Baskar and Srividhya, the founders of Amagi, which incidentally turned a unicorn this year. And what friendly creature do you have?
Oh,
there?
this is a small millipede,
Okay.
and this is part of our neighborhood. Here.
Okay. I was just telling them that, you literally live in the middle of the woods.
Right.
In fact, we all had doubts on whether this is Bengaluru
or not,
minus
yes.
all the chaos. But what's it like building a startup right in the middle of the woods, and that too a startup that wants to take the world of media
Right.
and sports by storm?
Right. Now, again, I think it's been a fascinating journey for us as a company, and I think we've just got started from a transformation that's happening. Like every other industry, the media industry and the television industry that you folks are part of as well is changing a lot. Everything is becoming more software driven and on cloud, and I think we have a unique opportunity as Amagi to change the whole landscape of how media is created and consumed and on a worldwide scale in terms of what we're trying to do.
Right.
I think we're in a kind of a decade-long transformation that's starting to happen. I think we're in the right place, right time to solve that problem for the whole worldwide television industry. That's the big advantage, and that's the big opportunity that we have in front of us.
So what will this mean for the future of television? Should all of us be scared as people working in the television
So
industry?
you're going to make this more of a possibly a gig industry, I guess, in terms of everybody can become television journalists, everybody can become a reporter, anybody who has a camera can start to produce content, obviously, which has been there already. We see this as a big change of democratizing the industry, both in terms of how people are consuming content. There are thousands of locations through which people are going to consume content. And what are we is a mission for us is to make the creation of content so simple and easy. You want an IPL, Super Bowl quality of content to be created, but anybody could be able to create that in terms of using a browser interface and be able to do that. That's the worldview where we're going. We're truly in a journey, maybe another 5-10 years. I think things change a lot. And given with augmented reality and virtual reality coming in, we truly believe it will change the way how we consume content. Gaming and video are all going to converge. So exciting times for us. And as the television industry changes, we want to be able to drive that change and be
Right.
the pioneers in doing that.
Right. Srividhya, what we've noticed is a lot of these industries that got a pandemic boom, right? They're receding post-pandemic, be it education, gaming, etc. But do you think the OTT boom is here to stay? All these different platforms through which people consume content, not just cable television or D2H, the traditional modes?
Yeah, definitely. This change is definitely going to remain because it has changed the habits of people. If you see the millennial kids, or if you see the current trend, right, many people consume content through multiple ways. They consume it on their mobile, they consume it on a connected TV, they consume it on their iPad or any pads, and all the devices they consume. So since this has changed the behavior of people, this is there for us to stay.
If the COVID-19 pandemic changed how people consume content, it also transformed how media and broadcast firms delivered content to their customers across the world, with the rapid adoption of cloud-based software solutions. Amagi, which was one of the early movers in this space, has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this transformation. The startup enables content owners to launch, distribute and monetize live linear channels on free ad-supported television and video services platforms through a suite of solutions. A key breakthrough for this media tech SaaS startup was the Olympics, where it partnered with NBC Universal to provide an Ultra HD feed for broadcast in the United States for the first time, with everything being controlled on the cloud. The demand for these software solutions has increased with growing consumption of online video content. The United States was the biggest market for Amagi, accounting for 74% of its revenues. A rare unicorn that's also profitable, Amagi entered the coveted Unicorn Club this year with a $95 million fundraise led by Axel.
Bhaskar, when somebody looks at Amagi,
Right.
it's a little overwhelming because you say cloud video and media tech SaaS. So
Right.
for the benefit of our viewers, why don't you tell us in simple terms what you do?
Okay, it's a fairly very simple business from an external standpoint, and the complexity is, if you look at it, it's what's happening in our industry, which is the media industry, is exactly what happened in every other industry, where you wanted software-rich solutions to come in. I'll talk about an example, right? I'm sure all of us, when we are actually driving around cities in Mumbai or in Bangalore or wherever you are in Delhi, you'd have seen a lot of satellite antennas. You'd have seen large buildings and data centers where television, and we always used to watch and say, oh, that's a TV company here.
Yeah.
You could see the antennas and actually tell you that it's a TV company. What we're seeing is the whole definition of that is changing, because once you remove the satellites out of the picture, and you remove all the hardware that gets into doing the
Your
job.
OB-vans.
Yes, OB-vans. Everything is going to get out and become software which is going to run on a data center outside what you know. By doing this, what happens is, as a television company, for example, you can run a virtualized television company. That means a company where there's no office. Exactly what virtualized environment that COVID has actually asked us to.
So you can
come
literally
into.
run a newsroom sitting
You
at
can run newsrooms, you can run your sports matches, you can run things across the globe. We have already customers who do not own an office space, but actually have different people in different locations across the globe, and yet able to continue to create live sports and news content today worldwide. It's a big change, and it's truly a work change for all of the people that we're going to work with. But that's the future of how we see this. Exactly what happened for a working environment. All of us went to remote working during COVID timeframe. I think now television can be completely remote. There's no good reason for somebody to get to an office space to do that. And that's the change that we're seeing in the industry.
You work with different stakeholders. You work with broadcasters like NBC, you help them stream the Olympics. You also work with, traditional media houses or magazines that want to launch channels. And you also work with other forms of content creators or streaming platforms like your Roku TV and Samsung Plus. So, where does Amagi sit between all these different stakeholders? Are you the interface? How should one visualize Amagi?
Yeah. So Amagi actually stands in between all these parties. So at one end we work with large broadcasters like whom you mentioned, like NBC, ABC, those kind of customers. And we also work with streaming TV content providers, people who were originally in YouTube and then who wanted to go to other streaming TV platforms, right? The new generation streaming TV content providers. And then we also work with streaming TV platforms like Peacock or with Roku or with Zumo or Pluto, all those platforms. So we actually are in between all these things. So platforms need content, and then content creators want to reach platforms. So using Amagi's tech-based, cloud-based platform, media tech platform, the content creators can take their content to these platforms in the way in which the platforms really require it, and we also provide ways by which they can monetize their content. For example, in the platform free ad-supported streaming TV, most of the content is monetized using advertisements. So we enable them to do the impersonal programmatic advertising for the viewers. That's what we do, and we also work with ad partners who can help us to do that.
So you're basically appending the model where you can, if an advertiser says, find me this audience, male,
Correct.
so and so age, you will
Yes,
give them a
yes,
targeted
yes,
ad.
correct.
So Baskar, I read an interesting analogy where Amagi was compared to Amazon. If Amazon is the everything store for
Correct.
commerce,
Right.
Amagi can become the everything store for video or for content. Would that be a right way of describing Amagi? Give us the Amazon analogy to help us.
So kind of, if you look at it, what's Amazon doing? Primarily aggregating all the different goods and merchandise that we want to buy in one single location. And what you're seeing on the other side is people how to consume that in terms of buying that content. This is exactly again to what we're doing. What are we doing? We are aggregating every content in the world. So at least Amagi's vision and where we're going is be the largest media tech company in the world, which can aggregate all content available across the globe into one specific location. Once that's available, wherever you are consuming content, as a consumer, you're consuming content through different OTT platforms, different places. We want to be able to serve that to you as consumers whatever content you want. The analogy that I tell people is, okay, if you want to search for James Bond in one of your OTT platforms, we want to be the backend which is serving all possible James Bond movies that you can even think of.
Baskar and Srividhya, today, you guys want to transform the way content is delivered by media and broadcast firms. But tell us about your backstory. Both of you met in college?
Yeah, we were friends in college. We studied together. Then we joined Texas Instruments Bangalore, where we worked together. And then we started ImpulseSoft, our first company, together. And then we decided to get married. So,
Okay.
so we knew each other for a long time, but decided to
Then
get
I
married.
tell people that's a marriage of convenience. So that I couldn't go out of a startup to figure out whom you want to work with, and it was easier. So, so we were friends first, and then yeah.
Yeah, but the entrepreneurial urge, who had it more, you or her?
He
The
So-
the urge to start up
So
and
I had
leave
it
a
always like
cushy job and take that bet.
So since college, it was fairly clear to me that I want to be an entrepreneur in my life. So there was no other, actually, a career alternative. that I
What was the
looking at.
trigger? There would have been something that
See,
inspired you.
again, in the third year of college, I remember going to the library and taking a Byte magazine. It used to be called Byte, B-Y-T magazine. It was the first time when I looked at that magazine, and there's Bill Gates on the cover. And the first Microsoft has become really large, and it's Windows 95. Windows 95 was getting launched at that point of time. That was a big deal for me. When I looked at it and said, okay, if software can change the world, and somebody like Bill Gates is able to demonstrate that software can actually kind of change such a big influence across the globe, that was a big aha moment for me, saying, hey, I need to be an entrepreneur. I cannot be anything else, literally, in that sense. And I remember telling a lot of my friends in the third year that I'm not going to go for my campus interviews, I want to be an entrepreneur, right, to that extent. So that was a big trigger for me personally. And in my 11th grade, I was running a small company myself.
This was in the 90s.
In the 90s. I'm
When
talking about.
starting up wasn't so...
Starting up was not even, again,
Yeah.
even when we started the first company, I don't think people thought of startup was not a good thing, right? Typically coming from middle class families, it was not considered to be the best of career options. You were supposed to go to a large company, work along with a large company. That was the whole idea. But because I had started in 11th grade, I did my first software company. So along with a few chartered accountants, I started a company at that point in time, ran it for 2 years along with them. So that sort of gave me a good trigger that, hey, this is something that I like. I love this. This is really my lifetime option. So
Right.
then these folks came along, and Srini and Vidya, so we said, okay, let's do it together.
Right. In fact, a lot of people tell me about, this Amagi House in JP Nagar in South Bangalore.
Right.
So your startup actually started in a house.
Yes.
That was your garage. set.
Correct. Again, not only Amagi, the earlier company also we started in the same house. So it's a pretty large space. It's about it had a basketball court, underground court. It had massive bedrooms. It
Massive
suited
bathrooms.
us, and bathrooms was massive, right? I think we were thinking of even converting bathrooms into workspaces because it's so large. It didn't make sense to have such large bathrooms, but a beautiful, fantastically large house. I think all of us loved. We at the peak we had about 80 people in a single place in that house. So that's such a big, large house. It had a dramatic staircase and all of that. But again, we loved the space. So, and again, we always like to have something distinctively different in some sense, and that sort of gave a character to the
Company.
to ourselves and for the company as well. More importantly, I think in the first company, N.S. Raghavan, co-founder of Infosys,
That's right.
was an investor in the company. So he had invested pretty much on trust. So I remember the day when I walked into his office and I didn't know him. So he heard what we were trying to do. I think at the end of it, he said, Baskar, I don't know what you want to do because I don't understand it adequately. But I truly believe what you seem to be very enthusiastic and somebody that wants to do things. He wrote a 2 crore check immediately without even knowing us. I think that was a big aha moment for me personally, saying, hey, the amount of trust somebody can repose on entrepreneurship as a model. And to that extent, even today, I think I'm very grateful for him and his family and how they've supported us over this, even Amagi, they are investors in Amagi as well. But that sort of is the sort of trust level that came in and that really helped us to, and he was kind of a big, somebody that we look forward to in terms of conversations and communications, very organically thinks through things, not any fluff and entrepreneurship of terms and all of that, very, very commonsensical, and that helped a lot.
In fact, Srividhya, Baskar, I also wanted to ask you, startups in the last few years have also faced flack for burning too much money and cash burn, and now, chickens are literally coming home to
Correct.
roost,
True.
and they're, forced to undertake layoffs and all that.
Right.
So, from that perspective, were you always conservative? Did you always have an eye on costs? Did you, decide to grow your startup very differently?
Yes, that's true. We always looked at cost and we looked at profitability, because at the end of it, you owe the answer to the investors. People who trusted us, invested money, be it Mr. N.S. Raghavan or be it Premji Invest, all of them who had trusted in us, right? We gave a completely disruptive business idea to them, and they trusted us and came into us. So we were frugal in the way in which we spent the money, and we also the way in which we experimented with the idea as well. And we took smaller steps, and we always wanted to be profitable. Until now, we are profitable. So
one of the few profitable.
Yeah, that was kind of ingrained into us. I think starting from families where we come in,
from
frugality is part of the whole equation. And frugality doesn't mean you don't do innovation. Innovation actually happens when you're actually frugal in a lot of cases. I think that helped us a lot in terms of maybe we are maybe one of the few startups who have the least amount of money we've raised, right, in terms of the overall monies that we've raised and what we spent from a company standpoint. Even today, all the money we raise is in the bank. Literally, we're not spending the money because the company is profitable. So to that extent, it's been and profitability is an addictive phenomenon. Once you become profitable, you want to be profitable. That's something a lot of startups I tell people saying, hey, once you're profitable, you'll feel the need to be addictively profitable, because that gives a lot of freedom from an entrepreneur standpoint. You don't need to be worried about other people's money, how you use them, all of that. I think it's extremely enervating in terms of doing that.
Right. So what we're noticing in the last few weeks, a lot of unicorn startups are talking about right sizing, restructuring, cost cutting, demand coming down.
Correct.
Do you see these factors? Will you also have to undertake any of these measures in the next few weeks, tighten belt, so to speak?
No, today we are fairly fortunate, I would say, right, as a company, because the market that we are kind of working with is actually in an expansionary mode today, technically. So in fact, we are seeing acceleration of our solutions getting accelerated across, and it's a worldwide play for us. The technology is worldwide, global in its use. To that extent, we are seeing actually acceleration. In fact, we are accelerating our hiring process. We are quadrupling our sales teams. We are actually doubling things, right? In fact, our investors are saying, hey, why are you not using the money in the bank? Because so our pace is actually accelerating as a company. Even then, again, as I told you, we want to be profitable, and that's important for us. So we're kind of keeping that as a check.
But it's good to see a startup hiring in these.
Yeah, we are hiring big time actually, right? We are hiring much more than what we would have hired, and again, we're seeing that because of the markets really responding to the solutions that we have.
Founded in 2008 by college mates Baskar Subramanian, Srinivasan KA and Srividhya Srinivasan, Amagi started out as a business that delivered location-specific advertising, allowing advertisers to buy ad spots on television channels in India. But 6 years ago, it pivoted to a media tech SaaS firm. Amagi's two main businesses today are Cloudport and Thunderstorm. While Cloudport is all about media content, be it managing it, processing it, and distributing it to their customers either as linear, live-like, or on-demand content, Thunderstorm is everything related to making money out of the content through advertising and content analytics.
Coming to that, you guys raised two big rounds back to back. The latest, of course, gave you that $1 billion valuation. So will you need to raise another round, or from here on, is it going to be IPO? What's the plan on that front?
See, raising capital is dependent on what we want to do with the capital. So, if we want to kind of acquire companies who are having a complementary technology which we can integrate, if you want to invest in some other parts of the new business or bring up a new business, we would need capital for that. And definitely we are looking towards raising those. So we might do it with the private or do it with an IPO. So, yeah.
But largely, we are not raising capital we don't have a burn in the company. So technically, for example, even my last round, what we brought in as money is sitting in the bank. because we don't touch the money because we don't need it from a operating working capital standpoint. Largely, we're looking for these acquisitions that we need to do. See again, one of the paranoia that I always have is, I'm sure we were starting to disrupt the market about 5-6 years back in this business. I'm sure there's yet another 24-year-old sitting somewhere else, figuring out the next best thing that to happen.
Yeah.
So our paranoia is somebody's going to disrupt us. So how do we kind of get to acquire and get to learn from new entrepreneurs who are coming on board and be able to be part of this whole equation and then build it together? Because we are trying to build something for sustainably for a 25-30 year period. So it's not about something. So that's the reason we are actually raising money to largely to acquire both talent, new thought processes, innovations, new gaps that we cannot accomplish. We're trying to really bring them on board.
And to do new experiments.
One of the challenges that people often cite when it comes to Amagi is, do you have a defensible moat? I mean, what is stopping some of these clients that you service from building the stack themselves, the distribution platform, and so that they can own content and distribution end to end. So how do you counter those challenges, and how will you kind of build a moat that's strong enough to counter those moves?
Couple of things that we need to look at, right? In our business, we are in what's called a two-sided market. One side is the content creators, other side is the content distributors. What Amagi does is really connecting these two cohorts of people through a technology platform. If you look at it, more than technology is for me table stakes. Although I'm a technologist at heart, and I'm sure all of us are, fundamentally we believe the business structure should be sustainable and growing. For us, if you look at it, what's happening is a flywheel effect that's happening. If you're a content owner, what do you want to do? You want to go and distribute your content to as many people across the globe. You want the simplest processing mechanisms which will do it. You want to monetize your content through advertising or otherwise. What you get that at Amagi is in one single package for them. Our content owners are not technology companies themselves. Take NBC, take Viacom, take CBS that we're working with, take Eurosport. Everybody, they are not technology companies themselves. They are actually buying technology from a third party today on-prem infrastructure, which now they've moved to Amagi as a software platform. So they are not a threat themselves because they don't want to change things. The benefit that they are seeing when they come to Amagi is, Amagi can help me to distribute it in many different locations worldwide. Now, the reverse is also true. Typically, a distribution platform walks into Amagi and says, for example, I'll take LG or a Rakuten. These are all our customers. What these people did was, they came to Amagi and said, okay, hey Amagi, you're already working with hundreds of content owners worldwide. Can you not distribute all of them to us directly? Now, it's a kind of a very positive flywheel effect for us. Content owners come to us because we have the most spread of distribution platforms, the most complete technology architecture that is available.
So India always, is great for numbers when it, whether it's users, subscribers, but when it comes to the, paying top dollar, it's still not there. Is that a trend that you see as well?
We absolutely see that, right? So when we would love to do something in India. The problem is the advertising dollars, because we are in the advertising economy of how media works today, the advertising dollars is extremely small. Our CPMs in India are $3 to $5 at max. And in the US, it's $30, just 10 times more. But the technology costs are exactly the same. For us, from a build-out standpoint, cloud costs are actually, in fact, expensive in Asia and in India. Telco cost is extensive. The internet costs are much higher when compared to what we see in the US and other places. So to that extent, the market has to mature in some sense and possibly become better. Obviously, volumes are there, which is going to be a big driver in the future. But today, it doesn't seem to be an economically viable market for the technologies we build today.
Finally, how have both of you scaled as entrepreneurs with every stage of Amagi? What were you like, say, in 2008, 2010? What were you like in 2015? And what are you like in 2022?
It's been a fascinating experience for us. In 2009, we were bootstrapping our business. In fact, I remember several days wherein I have taken the hardware and gone to cable head ends. And people used to stare at me saying, oh, lady has come to connect all these boxes. And I connected all the devices, to see whether geo-targeting works. I traveled, far across to all the TV channels, worked with their technical team and tried to see how things are. We have hired the team, all of those we did. This is all bootstrapping phase between 2009 to 11, 12 or whatever. Then we saw a kind of a growth phase wherein there is growth, but there is a slow growth. So we had to take cautious steps to hire the team, to build the product, to understand what needs to be done. Now we are seeing a different phase wherein we have to expand the team. Just about a year back, we were 180 people. Now we are 520 people. We had to expand the team quite a bit because we are seeing growth everywhere and we need to make sure that we cater to their growth. This was a fascinating experience. About three years back, maybe we'd have hired 3 or 4 people in the US or 5 people in the US or whatever. But now, in a week, we have to hire that kind of a team for the sales and so on. So this is a real different experience. And in addition, setting up business units, letting go what we were doing to others, right? Like build the team and allow them to deliver rather than us doing all the work, right? From our operational roles. So all those are very, very different. And I'm enjoying this experience.
What about you, Baskar? How have you scaled as an
I think from
entrepreneur?
a maturity standpoint, we've changed a lot. And again, I think different points in time, and again, this is what I tell my investors. Typically, if you want to be a CEO of a company, if companies are failing, then CEOs are wrong. Anyway, they should be fired. If company is successful, maybe they need a better CEO, so you should be fired. So either way, if you look at it, but it's been, I had to personally transform myself into different roles because we were like technologists at heart when we started. Passion was driving the whole business. Right now, it's about process. It's about bringing the next set of organization structures, communicating your vision, or possibly even over-communicating your vision so that people kind of understand it, and then getting teams to work is a different phase in our own lives. Personally, it's a change for us, and how do we kind of manage larger and larger organizations. We are small, but we need to really grow right now from here on. And for us, it's transformational for us internally as well, right, in terms of our expectations of what we need to be doing.
Coimbatore or Bangalore?
Bangalore.
Coimbatore.
JP Nagar or Banarghata Road?
JP Nagar.
JP Nagar.
Geo-targeted advertising or cloud video?
Cloud-based.
Cloud.
Favorite OTT platform?
Netflix.
Prime.
Favorite OTT series?
We crashed.
We crashed, yeah, I like it.
The best advice you've got?
Follow your passion.
Journey is the destination.
An entrepreneur you look up to?
Bill Gates for me.
Steve Jobs.
One thing you would like to change about each other?
Okay.
More convincing.
Lots, I guess, but yeah, I'll leave it at it.
One parenting tip that both of you would like to share?
Spend time with your children as well.
Love the homeschool experience.
On that note, thank you very much for joining us on Biz to Billions, and here's wishing Amagi more transformation and more success going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.